There's so many ideas out there about learning piano. What's the right way, what's the wrong way, what you should be able to do, how soon you should be able to do it. Some of these are myths, some of them are misconceptions, some of them are just plain wrong. So I thought today we might have a look at some of those and explode a few. Before we get into it, I'd like to invite you to head over to my website, lekelamusic.com, and sign up for my newsletter, and you get a practice technique workbook which will get you started on a few of my favourite practice techniques. And if you want to delve deeper, there are a few courses there that you could look into as well. So I made a list initially of 15 or 16 different ideas that are just wrong about learning piano, but I narrowed it down to 7 main ones that I'd like to go through today. So let's go in reverse order and start with myth number 7. I often hear adults say, "Oh, I wish I'd started piano when I was a kid, it would have been much easier." But this is wrong. Actually, children don't learn faster than adults, and they don't have an easier time of it. It just looks that way. Partly because if you learnt as a child, you forgot what you went through at the time. And you're so busy as a kid, you don't notice time passing, you don't notice the accumulation of skills that might lead to you to being able to play piano as an adult. So if you meet somebody who learnt as a child and they're able to play piano as an adult, they can't really tell you how they learnt because they've forgotten what they went through to get there. But as an adult, when we start off, we know full well what we have to go through to get there. So it does seem to us like it's a more difficult journey. But actually, we can learn much faster because we've got better cognitive skills. We're more disciplined. We're better able to understand what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. And we're far more motivated. We know why we want to take it up. As children, we often don't have a choice. We're sent to piano lessons by parents who are maybe living out their dreams through us. So it often happens that kids will take piano for a while and they'll drop out because they don't have any intrinsic interest of their own. They're doing it for their parents' sake. Whereas as adults, we're highly motivated. We really know why we're learning piano. We love it. We love the music and we know what result we want. And frequently what will take a child 2 or 3 years to learn in terms of skill sets might take an adult only 5 or 6 months to get to the same place. So if you're an adult thinking of taking up piano and you think it might be too late for you, it absolutely isn't. Go for it. You'll do much better than you would have starting off as a child. Myth number 6 is a bugbear of many teachers when we see ads online or videos promising to teach you piano in 3 easy steps in less than an hour, which of course is absolutely impossible. Learning piano can take a lifetime. I think it was Rachmaninoff who said that piano is enough for a lifetime, but one lifetime isn't enough for piano. So the idea that you'd learn anything of value in 1 hour is nonsense. You might learn a couple of chords. A lot of these videos will show you where middle C is and how to pick out the different notes. But that's the very, very starting point. There's so much that comes after that. But the problem with these videos is you watch them and having gotten to the end of it, not really any the wiser, or maybe haven't been shown a few chords that you find difficult to find on the piano yourself, you could be left thinking that there's something wrong with you. That if you're not able to fulfill this promise of being able to play piano after an hour of instruction on a YouTube video, that the fault isn't with the video, that it must be with you, that surely everybody else is able to do it, but you're not. So let me reassure you straight off that there's nothing wrong with you if you can't play piano after a very short video showing you a few notes and maybe giving you a quick improvisation lesson. As the saying goes, if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. Number 5, when we get into the nitty-gritty of actually playing music, you'll often hear that you shouldn't write anything on your music. And if you have to make notes or put reminders on your sheet music, that it means that you're not a very good player. I remember coming across an image online of a piece of music belonging to Jacek Perlman, the violinist. The notes were almost illegible because he had so much written on it. Reminders, suggestions, and every time he came back to this piece of music, he wrote more things on it. So by the end of it, it's almost impossible to see any white on the page because there's so much written on it. And sometimes I'm asked if somebody is going to do an exam, should they take a rubber and rub out all the finger numbers or any reminders they've written on it, to play a particular sharp or even a note name. But no, there's no need. Perfectly okay to write on your music, and it's perfectly okay to write reminders to yourself. If there's a particular note that you keep missing, a particular flat that you forget to play every time, write it in. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It doesn't mean that you're any less of a player if you need a reminder now and again. God knows I do. Myth number 4 is people saying that they can't play piano because their hands are the wrong shape, that they've got fingers like sausages or their hands are like shovels, and how could they possibly play piano with that kind of hand? And then I invite them to have a look at some videos online of various concert pianists and the amount of variation in their hand shape and the thickness of their fingers, or whether their hands are big or small. You get every kind of hand and they're all able to manage. It really is just a question of adapting your playing to your hand shape, which isn't too hard actually, because you only have one hand shape, so it's not like you have to try and get used to different hand shapes. shapes. You only have your own hand shape, and you'll find a way. If your hands are extremely small, you might have to avoid pieces that have very large chords, but then it's just a question of choosing the right music for yourself. Myth number 3 is that it's easier to play pop music than it is to play classical music. But actually pop music is full of really difficult rhythms that can make it very awkward to learn, whereas classical music tends to be much more even in its rhythms and therefore much easier to figure out and to learn, and often much more predictable in terms of the structure of the music. So if you're just getting started in piano, your best bet really is to go for some classical music first at an easy level while you're getting the lay of the land and developing the coordination that you need. The rhythm in pop music is something you really need to work up to. If you want to play pop music, you're probably better off learning some chords and chord progressions and learning how to improvise over those, or to work out melodies by ear, because often pop arrangements that you can buy are often really, really difficult to read. Myth number 2 is that you need to be talented to reach any kind of level of proficiency in piano. Actually, that's not true. Arguably, talent doesn't really exist. Yes, some people might be more naturally musical than others, but it's something that everyone can develop. And how far you go in piano is really not a factor of how talented you are as such, it's a factor of how obsessed you are and how determined you are to keep going and how in love you are with the music. Because it doesn't matter how talented you are per se if you don't have the interest in practicing every day. And success in anything is really just a result of how much hard work you're willing to put into it. So if piano is something you just want to dabble in and you're not really interested in practicing for hours every day, then that's absolutely fine. Enjoy what you're doing, but don't limit yourself by saying, well, I'll never be any better than this because I'm not really that talented. Just be reassured that if you did decide you wanted to take it to a higher level, then you would just need to up your practice a little bit and get a little bit more involved in it, and the result would follow. A good toolbox of practice techniques will take you much further than any so-called talent. And myth number 1, and the one that annoys me the most, is this idea that when you're playing music that you're not allowed to look down. I don't know where it comes from. I think it's originating the idea that, you know, when you're starting to read music, first of all, that if you're looking at a note and then looking at the piano and then looking at the next note and then looking at the piano, you're going to get lost. That's absolutely true. But beyond that, this idea that somehow you have to be able to make these big jumps on the keyboard and find your way around without ever looking down is absolute nonsense. Please let go of it. It's fine. You have these 2 eyeballs in your head that give you an enormous amount of information that you can use to your benefit. So why would you cut yourself off from that? Have a look at this video of Martha Argerich accompanying another musician and just watch where she's looking as she plays. As you learn a piece of music, there are going to be times when you look down at your hands, there are going to be times when you look at the page, and it becomes a kind of a choreography. And in fact, knowing where to look at a particular time, which hand to look at, the sequence of eye movements can really be a huge benefit to learning a tricky maneuver on piano. So please don't feel that you can't look down. It is possible, of course, to play piano without looking at your hands. Of course, there are plenty of blind pianists out there who do amazing work. So they prove that, yes, you can develop that sense of distance on the keyboard without looking down. But there's no reason why you should have to do it if you have the gift of vision. So there you have it, 7 ideas that you can let go of and proceed on your piano journey with a slightly lighter load. Let me know in the comments if there's any ideas that you've come across that seem a little suspect, and we'll see if we can take them apart and see what's true and what isn't. I'll see you soon again, and in the meantime, happy practicing.